And welcome back, folks. We are back and live on another edition and another year here on the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with Al Borges. He is as gorgeous as ever. Look at him.
You God, I know it's I love getting up the next day because I look better than I did yesterday. That's just my life, Sam. That's how I live. And the
And how
chips still
about
get
this?
me.
How about this? You got another one of your quarterbacks taking over as the Monday morning quarterback.
Oh God, yeah,
Started
this was
yesterday.
this one's a little scary now. I got to listen to him and give him a critique. I haven't talked to him yet, but we're gonna have a little critique for him.
He talks about you just as much. He said, "Man, we were down against Notre Dame. There were like I don't know 30 plus seconds, 30, 40 seconds left." And I said, "Oh, they left too much time on the clock. They left too much time on the clock. I got us down there, and I'm ready to win the game." And he said, "Coach Borges, he just wanted to tie the score. He just wanted to tie the score." And I said, "No, let's go win the game." And he said, Coach Hoke said, "Oh, he's serious. Let's go win the game." And he said, Borges said, "Denard, Denard, you better not take a sack. I swear to God, you better not take a sack. You better not. I swear if you take." He said, "You were all over him, Al. You were all over him about don't you take a sack. God darn it." But you didn't say God darn it.
Well, no, sometimes during a game I use some explicatives that are unnecessary, completely terrible. But um, and he doesn't mention the fact that the touchdown pass he threw at the end, he was supposed to be in shotgun. Just FYI on that, but he decided that he was going to go under center, so he decided he's going to be the coach that play. But he threw a touchdown, so I found a way to forgive it. I don't know. All's well that ends well, I guess.
Well, all your fans are back, gorgeous
Oh God, I
Al.
love him. I just love him.
They are back here to see you break down another year of Michigan football. And it's not just your protege. We went from Devin Gardner being the Monday morning quarterback to Denard Robinson being the Monday morning quarterback to now Michigan's offensive coordinator is another one of your proteges. How about that? Chip Lindsay on the ones and twos of Michigan football.
The hits just keep on coming. Sam Chip was well when I was at Auburn back in 2004 to 2007. Chip was a high school coach, and that's where I met him. He used to come by our practice. Real studious guy. You could tell he had a shot. Now you could tell this guy's can go beyond high school football if he wanted to. And then later on in 17, a year when I was out of football, I went and was an analyst for him. So we had a great relationship. Always had a great relationship, and so it was a natural for me. And he's such a great guy and such a good football guy that, it was a good fit. So, we had a heck of a year that year.
Yeah, man. So I asked you, Al, to set this up. I said, what is this? What is this influence going to be? What kind of changes is he going to make? Understanding Michigan has its identity, and how is he going to blend that with Michigan? So he's an RPO guy. He brings some spread to the equation. He's going to tempo you, that kind of thing. Well, how's he going to? Michigan doesn't RPO. It's on the playbook, but they don't RPO. They
They do
damn
now.
tempo out. What about that? And they don't spread you out.
Yeah, they do now.
How's he
Yeah.
going to blend all that? What are you thinking game in the first game? Give me your broad strokes.
Well, the delicate balance is implementing your own ideas without bastardizing the nature of the culture of the offense, which I think he did a great job of. He they still ran 10 variations of duo plays, so that didn't go away. Now there weren't any counters. That was maybe the sacrificial lamb in some of this, but he came out. They ran 16 variations of run pass option, whether it was a run control with a little spot screen or just a pure RPO. And you'd have to watch 6 games to see 16 RPOs of Michigan in the past. They ran some stretch plays, some successful stretch plays, which I think is a great addition, even if it means sacrificing something else, because you got to be able to handle those movement teams like Indiana did to them a year ago, where you can catch some of that. Sometimes a play's going to look good, sometimes it's not, but I think it's got to be part of your offense. It doesn't have to be, as a lot of people think, a staple. We've run stretch plays everywhere I've been, and that wasn't necessarily our best play, although some people live with the play. Okay, so that was awesome. Through 4 screens, Sam, 4 screens, four. Okay, a little tight end screen, couple wall screen, little design bubble screens. So that was a little bit different. And then the tempo at the beginning, Sam. And you know what was cool about that? it got the quarterback to relax. He didn't have to go back and internalize every good or bad play. You know what I mean? Just get to the line and go. They were all designed. You know, you get a first down, boom, they run the line of scrimmage, run to the next play. And Chip's done that in the past. That's not news. So I think all that was really good. I mean, again, people are going to minimize the opponent, but last year they could have played that opponent and not done what they did. They just weren't there yet. So I think the blending without bastardizing was really, really good. The play calling I thought was excellent. I don't think he had really a bad call. And what was kind of cool, Sam, is I believe this quarterback, we'll talk about him a little more in a minute, but they're going to be able to get the ball down the field with him. And you haven't yet seen that third play dimension, you know, the one where he, you know, everything breaks down already and he raises hell by buying time. He did a little bit of it, but not as a runner, you know, and you saw no +1 runs at all, which is, you know, understandable. I think those can be another day. But a lot of things very, very encouraging.
Yeah, so you said 4 screens. How many screens did they run all last year, Al?
Oh,
Did
God.
they
I
run
don't know.
4?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can count them on one hand. They just
Right?
won a screening team. That just wasn't their deal. So what's kind of cool is Sharon has kind of turned him loose, you know, to hey, we need some new stuff. We don't want to get out of the offense because that's won us a national championship. But we need some new stuff to help our old stuff. And I think that Chip's done a good job of blending that.
Well, we saw it in the very first drive, and that was maybe the most sort of intriguing part as much as you want to see how Bryce was going to do. I think there were 2 primary objectives in this game, and they were related. It's get Bryce comfortable and blend Michigan's identity with the philosophy or the pieces of Chip that he wanted to add to the offense. So RPO for sure. Like he wants to add that to the mix. You know, some spread principles, not go full spread, but some spread principles to the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Want to get some stretch in there. Mm-hmm. Tempo. Ow, they come out and you imagine New Mexico's surprise. You know, they're coming in, they're expecting the condensed formation, Michigan to come downhill and pound them, come back and huddle. And it's the polar opposite. It's diametrically opposed to what they're expecting. They come out and they spread. They hit them with a bubble. Boom. First down. Run to the line of scrimmage. They run another play. They get a couple first downs. And their head's probably spinning after a few plays. Michigan's got a couple first downs. They're running all around and hurrying up. And then they get under center, run duo, and it's 56 yards to the house.
Yeah. And here's the deal, Sam, is that's a new thing. Not new, but he came back to under center play. Okay. He told me in offseason, he says, I'm going to run more plays under center, which he's mostly been a shotgun guy for the most part. But it's so good for your play action game. I mean, it really is. And everybody wants to be in spread all the time. So the quarterback's a threat. Well, sometimes the quarterback's just as big a threat throwing the ball off play action as he is running the ball in shotgun. So again, the mix is what makes it. The mix is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, not putting all the pressure on the quarterback to present the defense as a runner or threaten the defense as a runner, and allowing other people to touch the ball and then working plays off those runs. And you saw a couple play action passes that weren't all bad either.
Yeah, man, it's definitely the case. So RPOs, Al, kind of familiarize people with RPO. And someone asked a very interesting question of Denard yesterday that can kind of come to you. It's like, wait a minute. So what was he reading? What was he reading, Denard? Why didn't he run any? If he was running RPOs, why didn't he run? And it was Denard sort of addressed it, but you can kind of address it as well and kind of talk to people about what you mean when you say run control, because there are some pre-snap and there's some post-snap.
Correct.
Kind of, variations to this. So kind of explain the family, if you will.
Yeah, the RPO family, so to speak, and this is how I do it, and guys do it there. They call them all RPOs, which they kind of are. But RPOs are classified 2 different ways to me. There's run control. Run control means it's generally a pre-snap read where you got a little spot screen outside, which they ran a bunch of the other night, okay? He'll go out there once in a while when they pack the box. You may run 5 runs and never throw it out there, but it's always a threat. It's always a threat. So run control is generally a pre-snap deal, a bubble, a spot screen, something like that. You can run control post-snap, but it's not usually the starting point, okay? The defense is flanked or shorthanded, boom, the ball goes outside. RPOs, the pure RPO is more of a post-snap deal, okay? A safety starts to crowd the box and add into the front on the snap of the ball. You eyeball him, pull the ball out, and throw something where he left, okay? So one is before the snap, one is after the snap. Both of them are very quarterback dependent now. And what's, I think, really where the game's changed some, Sam, when football started, the quarterbacks called all the plays. Remember way back when, maybe that was before you. Okay. Then the coaches said, it's too much pressure on them. We're going to call the plays. But now, yeah, the coach calls a play, but the quarterback makes a lot of the decisions whether the ball's going to be run or passed. Okay. So he's not back to calling the plays, but he's back to determining your run pass ratio, which he used to do by calling the plays in the old days, So that's what's happening a little more now with Michigan. The good thing about Bryce is he's done some of this in high school. This isn't news. I saw him play in person a couple times, and he's done this. So it's not relearning or new learning, and that makes a big difference with the quarterback. And what they've done, I think, too, just in looking at their play calling, I went back over the film a couple of times, and they've streamlined some of their passing game until he really gets a feel. We're going to talk about this. I think we're going to talk about Arch Manning a little bit later. This will give you a little idea, a little comparative analysis between the two guys, okay? They kind of streamlined the passing game so it wasn't real complicated. Now, again, Bryce's opponent wasn't as good as Texas was, but still he looked comfortable. He never looked confused or lacked poise in the game. And I think that's a huge deal, particularly with a guy in his first start.
Yeah, man, it was impressive to watch. And I talked about the two objectives being tied together, the blend. I think I said to you at one point, man, you can't blend much better than Chip is blending. But, man, he got Bryce comfortable. I want to give Bryce a ton of credit. First of all, he's just different. Physically, he's obviously immensely talented. But up top, upstairs, the kid, he's super smart. But his confidence and calm are different. And Chip and Sharon, they clearly have dialed into that in a way where they have an understanding of how good he is, how collected he is and calm he is, where they play to it. And they've grown some confidence in him to the point where they've repped him enough and feel like he's versed enough where it's 3rd and 14 now with 2 minutes to go in the half. They've scored 2 possessions in a row.
That was impressive. Yeah.
And they said, don't just throw a bubble or a screen. Throw it for the sticks, young fella. And he executes it. And I said, wow, that's a whole hell of a lot of confidence to have in this dude. And he delivered.
Yeah. And Chip Lindsay and Bryce Underwood have similar personalities, believe it or not. They're both kind of the same way. They don't get flustered. They're kind of always even, you know what I mean? And they blend well. You can tell they mesh well because he's not going to be howling at him every time he throws an incompletion, And I think even if he was, I think Bryce could handle it. So I think that mix is really, really good. And to show the confidence in the kid to say, okay, hey, we've practiced 2 minutes. Let's run it. I don't care but you're a freshman. We're not going to run the ball every single snap. We're going to practice our 2-minute drill. He threw some balls down the field. He did some good stuff. That was as good as anything I saw him do the whole game was that last minute drill. That first half 2-minute drill was very impressive.
Yeah, man. And so, you get into it and then you see that it's a great mix though. And they use their backs and boy, Al, you get over to Justice Haynes and you see Michigan has a home run threat. This dude is off to the races, a duo for 56 yards, a split zone for 59 yards. And while you want to give that young man a ton of credit for being able to go a long way, how about the fact that on the duo, he's one-on-one with the safety right now. As soon as he gets the ball, as soon as he gets the handoff, you can see the safety right now. He doesn't have to make a cut on the split zone. He doesn't get touched for 4 or 5 yards, right? I mean, how many times last year
Against bad teams, Sam. Again, not necessarily the best team, but they couldn't create an explosive play, But
and so I'm thinking that the line play in this game, I don't know about pass pro. You can maybe kind of, as we get into your grades coming up, speak to this more thoroughly. But from a run blocking perspective, just eyeball test, this seemed like their best run blocking performance in a couple of years.
they were for the first game. Again, I graded them, and you never know all the calls they're making. I don't care how long you coach or what you do, but I didn't see a lot of assignment errors. Number one, okay. Number two is they seem to have been working in concert much better than they did earlier a year ago. And I think because some of these guys have played more, with Link and with El Hadi and with Cripp in the center. I think they've all played more. The left tackle Sprague, I think it was Sprague. He was solid, but they just looked like they were playing together better, and I think as they play more, that'll even improve more and more. So this, for the first game, very solid.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic to really see it manifest. And again, I know people will qualify as saying it was New Mexico, but Michigan couldn't do that against any. I said this out. I said, who did they do this against last year? No one. No one. So I don't care that it was New Mexico. That's progress that they were able to do it against New Mexico. How about Marlin Klein in this game, Al?
I think I told you this. We talked on the phone about this. I think Marlin is in the process of taking the next step. Okay. And in time, we'll know if he's actually taking it. But this kid's a threat. He can run like the wind for a tight end. Look like a wide receiver running down the field. He's always been a good blocker. Okay. He was kind of in the background because of how good Colston was, and that's understandable. You're not going to throw all your passes to two tight ends. So he's taken over that role, and he can get down the field. I mean, they ran a trap pass. He's past the second level of defense, lickety split. The ball came out right on time. Big play, good run after catch. I'd say another trap pass where he ran a shallow and caught the ball, but he's inside the box. He blocked pretty well. I think I graded him down on a couple plays, but certainly nothing to be concerned about. I think this kid is going to be a capable replacement for Colston Loveland. Now, is he going to show all the body language, the body control, and all that, that Colston did? I don't know if he's ever going to reach that point. But he has other strengths, speed being one of them, that Colston wasn't as good at. So this is a capable replacement in a position that's just critical to their offense.
Yeah, man. Colston will tell you. As a matter of fact, he did. He said, "Man, this dude is faster than me." And Denard said he thinks you could see Marlin Klein run a 4.5 certainly, but he said, "Watch, he can maybe run 4.4 at the combine." The dude is really, really fast. It was a matter of could he bridge the gap with Colston in the other areas, not in body control and fluidity. That's he'll never be Colston in that regard. But in terms of route running and hands, could he get closer to Colston as far as that's concerned? He can work on that. And he clearly has.
And Sam, he is the kind of tight end NFL guys are looking for. He's fast and he can block in the box. Okay. He can play move or he can play inline. And I think can handle both spots. So I think the kid's got a great future if he keeps progressing like he is.
Yeah. We'll get into the questions for Al. By the way, if you have questions for Al, put them in the chat. We'll get to them at the end of the episode, like always. Cameron Diggs, though, says we have another tight end on the other side. Hogan Hansen is the guy. He was hurt. And so, but they're really high on Hogan Hansen.
Yes. Yeah. I talked to them in the offseason about that. And he was a guy they thought really was going to be able to fill that spot.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for Hogan. Yeah. They definitely have some other guys that they really feel like are gonna be dudes. So they got a dude at quarterback. We didn't see everything that he could do, namely him running the football. It's interesting. You mentioned +1 running, and this is one of the things that we we talked about with Denard yesterday. I joked with Sharon on air and off air. Said on air, we talked about it. Said, Sharon, loaded boxes, some coaches RPO that, and he kind of laughed and chuckled, and he said, "Yeah, and some coaches block them all." Right? I mean, that's what Michigan did during his time as a coordinator, right? Chip has been largely an RPO guy, but that does not mean, Al, that that's all he
No,
did
no,
or does,
no.
especially when you have a quarterback who can add into the run game like Bryce can.
Mhm.
And so that's what Denard was on yesterday. He was like, listen, especially in a game like this, I would be shocked if that's not on the menu for what he expects Oklahoma to try to do in this game.
Yeah, I think on a limited basis, yeah. I think you probably want to add a little, and maybe a little more zone reading, where he has the ability to pull the ball. As the opponents get better and better, the quarterback is, in today's day and age anyway, is usually more of a factor in run game. Okay, now this game, it just wasn't that necessary, but I think you're going to see more and more of that. And still, I said 16 variations of run pass option. There were a lot of run plays where they weren't tagged, so they still have within their offense the ability to block them all or block as many as you can and beat one of them. They still have that in their offense, and most of their dual package is still that. They're still doing that. So it's just an addition and kind of a major addition, but it still isn't their whole offense. It's just equipment for their offense.
Mm-hmm. So now let's kind of get into looking to Oklahoma. We'll get to your grades for the game here coming up, but I'm interested for you as a longtime coordinator. It's going to be different
Oh, much.
going
Yeah,
going
much.
down to Norman, and to kind of compare how you prepare a guy for stepping into an environment like this, and be ready for what he's going to see, and have him not have happened to him what happened to Arch Manning at Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
because they're making it sound like Matt Patricia had him seeing Greek. I don't know how you feel about it, but how do you how do you feel about that, and how do you make it so your quarterback isn't seeing Greek when he's faced with maybe seeing some coverages that he wasn't expecting?
Yeah, I think Patricia did a good job of mixing the coverages. But when you're facing that type of deal, and when you're facing really any kind of deal, okay, what you do is you don't depend on pre-snap reads all the time, because we know pre-snap reads are usually just a disguise. They're trying to make you think they're doing something that they're not, and that's where you have to start with a quarterback who says, "Yeah, I love pre. We're going to peek and see if they give us a little something. We're going to take it, but we're not going to depend every snap on dissecting the defense before the snap of the ball." If you can do that, that's a bad defensive coordinator, okay? That's letting the guy just see what the coverage is, okay? No, it's more when you're struggling like Arch Manning was, you got to depend on, your footwork, okay, which was where he really failed worse than anything. He did not set himself to make most of his throws. He was making unnecessary awkward throws. Now, there are times, we all know, where you have to make some awkward throws, but he was making someone that was not needed. And number two is progress your reads. If you're struggling with seeing what's on the back end of the defense and they're fooling you, just go 1, 2, 3, check it down, or throw the ball away, or take off if you have that to you, and move on. But don't try to dissect every movement the defense is making. He's not ready for that. And even pro quarterbacks don't do that. I mean, they do it to a degree, but there's a point. It's look to 1, look to 2, look to 3. Know how your footwork ties into the timing of each one of those throws, and use good fundamentals. Pull yourself through every throw, drive every throw, and you'll complete more passes than you won't. And you won't miss easy balls, which is what happened with him. He missed some passes that he should not have missed, and it was a difference in the game because they only lost by 7 points, okay? So I always go back to the same thing, man. I could blindfold you before the snap of the ball, and if you just go 1, 2, 3 and make a good decision, you'll complete a good portion of your passes.
So it seems like I mean, you make it sound so simple.
Though it's not, but it
Because
has to equate to that at the end of the day.
Because I guess I'm asking you, how do you make a quarterback not feel like I'm I'm paralyzed out here because I don't know what I'm looking at coverage wise. You're telling me progress your reads. I don't know what they're in, coach. How am I going to progress my reads if I don't know what they're doing
Because you
on?
don't, at the end of the day, you don't really care what they're in. Okay. You just go 1, 2, 3. Is there a throwing lane to 1? Throw it. If there's not, your peripheral vision should tell you I'm throwing the ball to 2. If your peripheral vision says no, then look to 3 and make sure your footwork ties into all those reads. Okay. So if you know the coverage and you can see either pre or post snap, it sure helps. Now, don't get me wrong. You're still reading pass coverages, but are you preconceiving where the ball's going based on the pre-snap read? No. And how do you keep from doing that? Don't give them 6 million things to think about, particularly a young quarterback in a new game. Maybe half-field reads. Maybe half-field reads and eliminate premium looks backside until he really gets it down where he feels comfortable with all the looks. Limit the amount where his eyes are going on the snap of the ball. Emphasizes footwork, emphasizes weight transfer, emphasize progressing the reads, and more often than not, you'll have less problems. But the more he has to extrapolate, then Matt Patricia is going to look like a genius, okay? Because
He's not.
Yeah, well, his job is to fool the quarterback. His job is to get in the mind of the quarterback and screw him up. And if the quarterback allows that to happen by trying to extrapolate all this information, particularly a young guy, and Arch Manning's a young guy, as is Bryce, and you're going to have issues. Now, as he plays more and he understands more, then he can handle those situations a little bit better. You can give him more things to think about, okay? But if you ask me, and I'm sure Chip will tell you the same thing, is we are not going to be reinventing the passing game wheel against Oklahoma because we're going to run the problem. Because those Venables, those guys do all the same stuff now. They got variations unbelievable now. They'll fool you. So just stick with your fundamentals and your basic read progressions, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's, at the beginning of the show, I said, get Bryce comfortable. I mean, he game planned comfort. And I mean, that is so much a part of this game, getting Bryce comfortable down there. Because if Sarkisian was able to get Arch Manning comfortable in that game, and the most telling stat was the stat that ESPN keeps showing. They showed it again.
37%. Yeah,
exactly.
I saw it.
Exactly, 37%. I don't know exactly what they called the statistic, but basically, they have a metric for passes you should complete.
It's a good stat.
And he missed 37% of those.
Yeah, I used to call it wasted plays. We wasted play where a guy's open, the protection's good, we can't hit it, and we can't score points because we can't keep the chains moving. And that's what you got to avoid. Anytime they're giving you something, you got to take it. And every quarterback's going to miss a throw here and there. That's not, but you can't miss that many, not in a game like that. And here's another thing, Sam. I think you asked how to get him comfortable. Up-tempo offense, mixing up. And again, I like up-tempo offense as equipment for your offense. I don't like up-tempo offense as a steady offense because it usually kills your defense, okay? But up-tempo offense, particularly on the road, can take the crowd out of the game, not allow the coordinator to show all his disguises. Because a lot of times in up-tempo, you're going so fast, what do? They line up and you see it, okay? So I think that is another piece of equipment that you might want to implement early, which they did this last week successfully. I think that'll help him. I really do. I wouldn't live in it. I wouldn't use it. I would use it. I wouldn't abuse it, but I would definitely use it. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's another thing to consider.
Yeah, that's a tightrope. That's an interesting tightrope to walk because you got to consider, you talk about killing your defense. That's a high octane offense that defense would be dealing with on the other side. And you want to keep them on the bench if you can, that offense on the other side. So, might we see Michigan be a little more deliberate this week? You wonder. I don't know. That's a question to kind of ponder here as we move forward. If you have questions for Gorgeous Borges, put them in the chat. We will get to them coming up again. If you have questions for Al, put them in the chat. We will get to them. I promise you. here a little bit later on, because we are about to get to the grades for Gorgeous Borges. So Al, if you can get your grades ready from the New Mexico game, please get ready to break them down, and we will have you go position by position, so you can give the people the feedback, and we will start with the quarterback. Give us your grades from
the kid was a solid B. Now he was not an A. He had I had him with 4 or 5 errant throws. He had a couple too, but just he hit so many nice big ones. You kind of ignored it, and if he could keep doing that, you can live with it. But he is an accurate passer. He's just going to get better and better. He's going to have some big time, 75, 80% completion games eventually. It's just a matter of time. But he was, for his first game, solid B. Offensive line, solid B. Again, good with a run, not bad with a pass. I think they gave up 2 sacks. I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me, but they were good. Tight ends, B+ to A-. Okay, I had very few. I graded them very few minuses against the tight ends. Running backs, I wouldn't, B+ to A- because they created explosives. I still haven't seen him tested a lot picking up the blitzes. Okay, and usually when I minus the running back, sometimes it's that, but there wasn't much of that. You could give them an A, and I don't think a lot of people would argue. Wide receivers, I think there were 3 balls dropped, so I gave them a C+. I expect all the balls caught. But they look like they're more of a factor this year, and they will be more of a factor as the quarterback plays better and better. There's some talent out there. There is some talent out there that I think will be explored more and more as the season goes on. So the offense was in the first game was a B, maybe a B+. With a young quarterback, that's pretty darn good, and it's a lot better than it was a year ago.
Yeah, man. You said for the offense, is that basically your grade for Chip in this first game?
Yeah. I gave Chip his play calling. I don't know. I just see him. Usually I'll go through. I'm a critic now. I love Chip, but I'll still tell him in a minute. I don't know. His play calling was, as near flawless as you could get. I didn't see any guys. Oh, why'd you do that? There wasn't much of that. So I think he was right on time pretty much the whole game, and had a plan and stuck with the plan. Even when they were sputtering a little bit like in the second quarter, but he stuck with the plan. Got the quarterback back in rhythm. That 2-minute drive was huge, I think, to get them going again, and I just think it was really well managed.
All right. Let's go ahead and start getting to the questions, and they have come flooding in for Al Borges. You guys are making Al's head bigger than it already is, which is, golly, man. I didn't think it could get any bigger. Good grief. Good grief.
Isn't it terrible?
It's terrible. Terrible. All right, let's go ahead and get to it. Let's start getting to the questions for Gorgeous Borges. JB's wants to hear you talk about the pass to Marsh where he wasn't looking. Now
that was a fake bubble wheel. Okay. Now what they were trying to do is run the corner out. All right. Get the flat defender to jump the bubble, because it was really well timed, because they had thrown several bubbles, or at least presented the look of a bubble before that point. And I think what happened, the guy bit and Bryce let it go because he didn't want to throw it into the corner. If the corner released the receiver and jumped in front, it'd be an interception. So he wanted to put it right in that hole as soon as he bit. And I don't think Marsh was expecting the ball that quick. So, but I don't see any other way. If the quarterback held it too long, you're going to really have problems. So, but it was there. He had it. But again, I just don't think he was expecting it at the time.
Mm-hmm. Steve Horn says you're the key.
Key.
Making your head.
You want the answers? You need the key, right, Sam? Don't you? Hey, Sam, if you got the key to every test, you get an A. You get an A if you had the key beforehand. I know a few guys had tried to do that. Actually did do it, but
this guy. All right, let's get back to it. Questions for Gorgeous Borges. Steve Horn said, Bryce looked clean in his drops and footwork. The footwork on the dagger, the good one, was perfect. We had a question later, said, what did you think of the young fella's footwork in this game?
Pretty good. And you know me, Sam. He takes one step I don't like, I'll say it. And he wasn't perfect. But the one play, and this is going to be small large scope of pass offense. But he sat on his back foot on a turn-in and threw a pass, a hooking route for a first down, and the ball came out without him having a hitch step. And for a young guy, that's an advanced move in quarterback play. That's something guys don't do usually the first year. They start learning that towards the end. It was a little thing, but I was impressed by it. I never saw him fidgety. I didn't see, he's using the pocket. Now, when he's tested more with pass rush, more third downs and such, I think that'll be a better barometer to see where it's for. But for game one, it was pretty good. He hit 2 daggers in the game. Now, daggers aren't easy to hit. Those are deep break-ins, one off a play action pass and one on third down. Now, something I will say too, Sam, is I saw here's another thing that was a little different than what they've done in the past, is there just wasn't a lot of drop back passing on early downs. Okay. It was mostly play pass, RPO, naked, whatever, where I think they dropped back 13 times in a game. Yeah, I got 13 times. And most of them, I had 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 14, 2nd and 9, 1st and 10, one 1st and 10. I think that was a 2-minute drill too. 2nd and 10. So my point is most of the drop back was used on the later downs. Now, there's nothing wrong with dropping back on early downs. That's fine, but it just makes it a little easier if you can play past them and get that underneath coverage to jump up and clear those reads out for the quarterback. That's a really good deal, particularly if you're running the ball well. So that was worth noting.
So, Al, this is a great question and point from Daniel Thornton. I tend to go to the questions in order, but I want to make sure we get this one in now because remember I was asking you the question about blending what Chip wants to bring to the nuance, I call it, what Chip wants to bring with the smash mouth mentality and balancing the two. And so Daniel Thornton really brings this into focus with this point. He says, I just don't want to see Michigan turn into a version of Ohio State when they had Stroud. I don't like soft finesse basketball on grass. Football, got to keep the smash mouth mentality. So this is where the blend and the skill of kind of achieving that balance comes in, which Chip did in game one. But can you kind of speak to that of making sure they maintain that smash mouth mentality?
Absolutely. And let me tell you something, Daniel, as long as Sherrone Moore's the head coach, I don't think you have to worry about that. Okay. But just evidence. And, Coach, I want some evidence. So evidence is the fact that they still pounded the ball in this game. I mean, they still ran. Let me see. Let me get my numbers straight here. They ran 8 open side zone plays in behind the split inside. They ran 10 variations of duo, counter duo, wing duo kick, something with duo blocking. And there's nothing more smash mouth than a duo play. They ran a couple power plays. And they ran one punch play, which is a one back power. So they still look like Michigan to me in that regard. They still had what was added a little bit is more of an attempt to outside run because they ran one very successful fly action sweep to the wing side. They ran 4 stretch plays. And again, remember the stretch play, it doesn't always get outside. It just attacks the outside. It'll come underneath a lot, but it is in fact a play that allows you to perimeter run or gives at least you a chance to perimeter run. They tried one pin and pull. The ball got pulled and thrown on a bubble, but it was actually in there. So they had that, you know what I mean? And so they still look like Michigan power running game to me. The only thing I didn't see was the counter OT play or the counter F play, the basic gap scheme that they've used so much. And I'm sure you'll see that in other games, but when you're adding something's got to give a little bit. So, but I don't see any change in the culture of their run game.
Well, I think there's a need to augment all the time. I mean, you could even see it in the championship year while personnel had changed. I mean, teams that kind of caught up a bit. Al, I mean, you talk about early in the season. Remember they had taken duo off the table.
Yeah, we didn't see one for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
and so then they started putting reads on some of those plays with JJ. That put it back on the menu, and they started being able to run the football some more. But so teams kind of catch up with some things. And then last year, Al, I mean, that Indiana game had to be an awakening for Sherrone. Like, we can't freaking get outside.
No.
And they came into that game and they just twisted and stunted in one game more than I've ever seen any team twist and stunt. And Michigan couldn't get outside.
Yeah, they saw blood in the water. They saw, hey, they're not blocking us very well. So I didn't even know if the plan was to use it that much. It might have been. But once they realized that when they weren't blocking it well, they got a heavy dose of it. And something else I think I should point out is Chip has never been a big duo guy. Okay. That has never, he's had it in his offense here and there, but it's never something he's used. So it's a tribute to his, versatility. He knows this is the culture of this offense. He knows they can run the play well. So it still is at the top of the play calling list with regard to the run game.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right. Let's get back to the questions. For Borges, Nala brings up getting to the offensive line, maybe the biggest question mark on the offensive line. Wonder how he did, but he said, looked like Link was mauling people in the run game. How do you think Evan Link did in this contest?
Link played pretty well. I had him with 5 minuses, which is not too bad when you consider all the plays he ran. And I'm sometimes I'm sticky on those, but he looked like he's improved. Both tackles were not bad, so it was those positions I think are going to be better. I mean, they're more experienced. They've been in the arena, and Evan Link I think is going to be a much better player than it was a year ago. Where his test of obviously going to be is when they're forced into a lot of passing situations, because that's where he struggled more than anything a year ago. He's always really been able to maul guys if he can get his body on him. But when he gets a good, speed rusher on the edge, that's where he struggled some. But I think he's going to be improved in that area too.
All right. Dust right. Are we still doing film studies on the other app? No, we are not. Let me explain why. Too expensive to do, fellas and ladies, on a consistent basis anyway. They're obviously really popular, but the networks, for the amount of money that they want for those videos, we just can't do the amount of time and money that it takes to be able to make money on those videos. Is not cost effective to do those week in and week out. It just costs too much to produce those. Maybe in a big game scenario, we will do those. But it just is not cost effective to do week in and week out. So we will pull out maybe some plays and do them maybe on a big game basis, but we'll not be doing them on an every week basis. So I hope you understand that. It's just a dollars and cents thing as much as they are fun to do. I know a lot of people enjoy them, but we need, put it this way, for the amount of money they cost, we would need 10 times the contribution that we got to do those.
That's not that we don't appreciate who contributed, because that was great.
Yeah, not that we don't. We certainly appreciate the amount of money that people contributed, but that's how much we would need to make money doing that. So there you go. Let's keep it going with the next question. The Steve Horn, the Klein RPO was a second level RPO. Nicer than a simple RPO with a hitch. What did you think of that? What did you make of that?
I'm not sure which play he's talking about, but there was a trap pass, which is maybe what he's talking about. They had 2 variations on trap pass that could probably be mistaken for RPOs, where they give you trap action, the guard pulls the linebackers up. One where Klein ran straight down the field. I think it's first one, and he got a nice big bite. The linebackers bit on the run. He hit the ball. He hit him in stride. That got a good piece. And then later on, same action, they crossed him with 2 levels. Him coming shallow and the other guy coming in behind him. And both instances, they got great bites because the run game was going well, and he pitched and catched it. But those were not RPOs. The ball's going down the field, like it usually isn't an RPO, because you just can't hold the ball that long because linemen would be downfield.
All righty. This next question, these are tied together. So Anthony wanted to know what will be your 15 play? So basically your opening sequence for the offense with Bryce on the road. Mr. Jones, thank you for the super chat. Says, how much would you run Bryce against a defense like Oklahoma, if any? So let's kind of wrap these together.
Yeah,
give me your game plan for Oklahoma with Bryce.
I'm going to, but I have not looked at Oklahoma yet. Now, if I was coaching, I have a better answer for you. But generally speaking, okay, I would hit them with some more tempo early in the, somewhere within that 15, I would use some tempo because I think it settles the quarterback down. Okay, as much as anybody, and not to mention it presents a lot of other team problems for the defense. But again, high percentage throws I call confidence builders. High percentage throws, whether it's a bubble, whether it's a curl flat combination, whether it's a little tight end stick route or whatever, things he can throw, and there's a hell of a lot better chance he's going to hit it than not. And then once he gets his sea legs underneath him, like he did in this game, and I thought that they manufactured this well, is stick the ball in there, show run, and throw the ball behind him, whether deep or whether second, layered routes type deals, because he can throw them. I mean, like I said, he hit a couple of daggers. He didn't have any trouble throwing those passes. I don't know that I open the game with a lot of that because it tests the protection a lot and forces a quarterback to make what could be some tougher throws. But I think that's it. And then with regard to the run game is play Michigan football, but don't be afraid to try and run the ball outside. And I hear these guys, I can't run outside too fast. We can't run. You have to have a perimeter run game. How much you use it kind of determines how successful you are when you do it. But you have to have some of that too. Maybe some flies, maybe a reverse. And then maybe, because this is a better opponent, is manufacture a +1 run or two. But I wouldn't go crazy running him, but I would run him enough to where they know they got to defend it.
Denard made an interesting point. He said, first of all, I needed to get hit in the game to feel like I was in the game, number one. And he said, number two, people get it confused. He said, running the football wasn't when I got hurt. He said, I got hurt when I took hits that I didn't see coming. He said, when I could lower my shoulder and kind of deliver the blow when I was running the football, those are the hits that you can brace yourself for. Mm-hmm. So he said, I'm not advocating for the dude to get 20 carries. He said, but those are the ones that I'm the least concerned about. When you call the run play, he lowers his shoulder and you say, hey, go for it, young fella. He said, don't abuse it, but he should be fine running it 4 or 5 times a game.
I can see that. And that's not. It would be like Denard, where you're going to run it, 20 times a game, but he can run it 4 or 5 times. And in crucial situations, don't be afraid to run the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. He said, I see him like Cam. Now, I wouldn't even run him as much as they ran Cam, but that's what he said. He sees him like, because he's up to, Bryce is 228 pounds now. He got bigger in the offseason.
He looks like an NFL guy visiting. When I went out there, I said, "Was that you got an NFL guy visiting camp?" And it was a freshman quarterback. So he certainly looks the part. He has the physicality to him, but you got to be careful because you got a long season and you just don't want to get him beat up. And sometimes it's not just getting him injured; it's just getting him beat up. This happened to Devin some. Is he gets beat up a lot and can't practice as much, and or can't transfer his weight as well on throws. There's just a lot of things that aren't necessarily pure injuries that keep the kid from playing well. So you got to be careful. You got to know how many times he's getting hit, not just how many times he gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and get to the next question for Al. It would be from Antoine Johnson. Says, Sam, ask Borges, can Michigan run a wedge RPO?
Well, they probably could, but it really isn't their theme. Their theme, when they're going to wedge, they're assuming that it's like 3rd or 4th and 1, or you're close to goal line or whatever. They just want to get their bodies on you, and they don't want to get cute. Now, they do have a play action pass off wedge, which I've seen them run, I think, 2 times in the last couple of years, and both of them were good. But to RPO it, I have not seen that. I don't know how that would shake out, because usually in wedge you got everybody packed in tight. That doesn't cater to RPO real well. But once you've run that thing enough and they're really looking for it, there are some other things you can do to take big bites out of the defense.
All right. This next one, Road Dog 101 wants to know, what's coach's thoughts on the Jayshon Barham targeting call? What did you think of that, Al?
Well, they're not going to like what I think about it, because I thought it was targeting.
Oh, give me a break.
Hey, I'm not giving you a Michigan answer. I'm going to give you a coach's answer. They look helmet to helmet to me. They replayed it. The guy in the I think it was Mike Valero. Mike, what's his name? He said it was targeting. It probably was targeting. Okay, I hate. There's a reason they got that rule, and they do review it, and that's not a popular answer. You want me to say no, it's a targeting. What I don't like is that he loses the next game. That I don't like. I think that's too severe. But if you ask me whether they did or didn't, I think it was targeting. I think I'd have called it. So
you got a guy turning his head.
Yeah, no, I know. I've heard all the arguments. And if you're the referee and you don't call that, you go back to your guy, they're going to get.
What is he supposed to do? Explain to me how that works. He tries.
How many times I've heard that on a targeting call, and I don't think all of them are targeting, but
a dude is shorter. I mean, he's turning his head to the side, so he's not leading with the crown of his helmet, and he makes contact with the face, but he's not leading with the crown of his helmet. I think that shouldn't be targeting.
Well,
you should be able to, and Big Ten agreed with him. I mean, I saw the same hit last night in the Carolina game, and they didn't call it targeting.
But no two are the same. They're always something a little different. But the Big Ten agrees with what?
That it shouldn't be targeting.
It shouldn't be targeting. Well, maybe they're right. I just thought it was. Here's the biggest deal is, and we established this 3 years ago. Football's under attack because of these head injuries, okay? And if it's even close, these guys have been instructed to make the call. Otherwise, there's going to be hell raised. So I'm on the referee's side on this one. I thought you got to call it. If you think it might be, it might not be, you got to call it. I just don't like the penalty for it.
This is an offensive guy talking right here. Don't ask the offensive guy a defensive question. How about that?
Yeah. I try to be as honest as I possibly can, even if it doesn't make everybody happy. And I'm used to pissing people off as an offensive coordinator, so it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people.
All right. Corey G said, Al, did Denard and Devin drive you crazy coaching?
Out of my mind. No, both players very coachable and bright, very, very, very good football guys, big time. Now Devin was more of an analytical guy. He could sit in with a button-down collar, watch film forever, and be fine. Denard, I had to slap him on the back of his dreads to keep him awake when I turned the light off sometimes, because he was much more of a kinesthetic learner, And I learned that with him is get him out there doing stuff, So, but they both were able to extrapolate scenarios very efficiently, and a little different type of players, even though they both were kind of runners. But Denard was really a run first type of quarterback, so that was our approach. We just didn't want to get him killed where he's running all the time. But that they were a pleasure to coach. They look crazy, a little different. They'd always be pimping me and doing whatever, but they were fun.
Yeah, they're still fun.
Yeah.
Adam. Love you, Sam. Hey, we love you back, Adam.
Oh, we love you, Adam. We do. Don't love Sam, but I love you.
All right. Java Call says, hey, Al, do you think the identity of Michigan's offense during the 21-23 run is still there?
Yes, I do. I just think, and Sam, you hit it on the head, nuance. There's some nuance. The new coordinator, new ideas, a few new deals, but there was no way that he was going to change the culture of Michigan offense. He wasn't going to do it. I talked to him at length when he got here, and that wasn't going to happen, but he was going to add some things that he felt he understood and could coach and blend them with what they had, and I think that he's done that pretty well so far.
All right. JSJ297. I'm already sick of hearing the Patricia is a genius going on. Now, what do
Sounds
you
like
make of that? What do you make of
that's
that
a,
talk?
that sounds like a bitter Lion fan right there. I think
What do we have? So, what do we have more of a sample space of? I don't know if you want to make a comment, but I'll give you my opinion. But
I
I do.
already know your opinion, but go ahead.
No, I mean, the question is to you. You're a coach. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you don't want to chime in, I'll understand if you don't want to chime in. Is Patricia a genius?
What? No, no, and I'm not a genius, and nobody's a genius. Some guys are a little more creative than other guys, but genius, no, no. But he works at it, and the thing about coaches, Sam, you're a genius one week, you're a moron the next week. Okay. So I always start using that word, right? I don't know. I don't want to hear it because you're just setting yourself up for a fall. Okay. So they're not geniuses. If you guys are a little more creative than others, smart guys, usually if you're a coordinator, you got a pretty good brain. They put guys, smart guys in those positions for the most part. They made an exception with me, but with most guys they do. And so it looks pretty smart today. And I'm sure he did a hell of a job. I'm not saying he didn't, but I just know if you're a Lion fan, you sure as hell don't think he's a genius. Okay. Uh, but if you're a Patriot fan, you probably do. And it
No,
just
you.
depends
Oh,
on
oh my
how you
God!
did your last game, and where you were and what happened and all that. So
Listen to me. You know what he's a genius at? Riding freaking coattails. That's what he's a genius at. All he did was be the coordinator when Bill Belichick was the head coach and Tom Brady was the quarterback. What has he done on his own? Go be the Lions head coach. They were terrible. He went and worked for the Eagles for a season. They didn't do anything. He leaves, they win a Super Bowl. I mean, I find no coincidence in when he's present, teams do jack, unless he's with the Patriots when they have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Now, what do we have a larger sample space on when it comes to the game last week? Matt Patricia's record or Arch Manning's record? Because here's where I think the media is falling. They'd rather say Matt Patricia is a genius than say, you know what? Arch Manning is just way overrated. Because if they say Arch Manning is way overrated, they'd have to admit that they were wrong. They were just way wrong in their assessment of Arch Manning, which I'll admit that, hey, I think I was just off about Arch Manning. I was just off. It happens. We make wrong calls. Maybe he's just he wasn't as developed as we thought. He wasn't as far along. Sarkisian isn't as good of a QB developer as we thought. It happens. But
yeah, maybe the stage was too big too, Sam. Maybe he needs to play a little longer. I don't know. I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, but yeah, I mean, combination of the kid not being ready for that stage and the defensive coordinator messing with him a little bit. I think probably isn't any one thing, but I would not attribute it to genius, and I wouldn't with any coach. I'm not picking on Patricia. I just don't think there's a lot of geniuses.
I'm not picking on him either. I'm making an observation. He sucked major ass with the Lions, and you don't start not sucking major ass overnight. I'm just sorry. So that fact that he got to Ohio State with a world of talent at home, and Arch Manning in his first start on the road was seeing ghosts, not prepared after being a couple of years in the incubator, that says something about something, and it ain't Matt Patricia. I mean, this is a Manning.
Yeah.
Being coached by Sarkisian. That's not
who they play this week, Sam. Who's Ohio State play this week?
I don't know who they play. Nobody.
Then it's going to be a genius another week. It's 2 weeks of genius. Okay.
So anyway, let's get back to it. The next one. Gore, and we already covered what you think of his footwork. Al, what do you think of Michigan's pass catchers? KT Travels, this comes from him. He said, I thought they were just still pedestrian. Klein played great. Samaj he says, I think Samaj is a downgraded Roman Wilson, no other difference makers. This is his assessment after one game. Do you think that this is an accurate assessment of Michigan's receiver room.
I think it's a little premature. It may be accurate. I don't know, but I think the more the quarterback plays and gets, because he's going to be able to get these guys the ball. If they're any good, they're going to get a chance to show you now. It isn't going to be like, well, you know what, the ball didn't go out there enough, not enough accurate passes. I think the jury's still out on the group. That's what I'll say. I think before we start saying they're pedestrian, I would give them a chance, a couple, 2 or 3 games to see how well Bryce is playing, because that's going to be a directly relative to how well they play. Okay, or at least their opportunities to make plays. Okay, so I'm saving full judgment on the whiteouts right now, but I'll get back to you on that one.
All right, let's go with the next one. As the question, man, Al, you would think, Al, that people loved you. I mean, if we rewound the tape 13 years ago, would you think that Borges had this much love?
No, Sam, when I left Michigan, I thought my first name was a cuss word.
Well, wonders never cease. The Michigan faithful love Borges. All right. Al, Jay Marion wants to know, Al, do you let the RBs carry the load against Oklahoma? Seems like Illinois State was able to run a little on them last week.
I think they got to carry their piece of the load, but to think that you're just going to run the ball up Oklahoma, it's a hard visual, but you got to get yards. They got to be part of it. They got to, I think if Michigan rushed for 150 yards, they got a good chance of winning this game. And if it's more than that, they got a great chance of winning this game. So yeah, I think you got to run, but I don't know if you're going to be able to run over them.
Okay. All right. The next one is Al. How do you get Bryce going earlier and not let the gas off on Saturday with Oklahoma? I mean, can you get them going any earlier than they got them going against?
No, man. I think they scored their first couple drives, didn't they? If they can just do what they did, or similar to that anyway, and then play the kind of defense they're capable of, I think they can compete with them. Remember now, defense travels well usually, Sam. They play generally pretty good no matter where they're playing. So Oklahoma's going to have their hands full too. So we'll see. But I think Michigan has some weapons that can score enough points to win this game. Only time will tell that.
Yeah. John Walls. What was the big run Blake had against Alabama, Al? I think he's talking about the insert for the touchdown.
Blake against Alabama, he had a power play that he scored on where the linebacker got caught inside. They pulled the ball down, and he kind of he beat the safety, and it was really, really nice. It probably should have gained about 5 yards, but he put it in the zone. So
was it an insert against Ohio State after Zach Zinner got hurt? Was that an insert?
Oh gosh, yeah, I think it was. Yep. Yeah, I think it was. My long-term memory cells aren't what they used to be, Sam. I'm going to be 70 years old, but they're not bad. They're still not bad.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You're doing pretty well over there. Next one. So this one, what do you think of this, Al? Popper Chungus, need more deep wide receiver shots. I don't think, did they take any deep wide receiver shots?
They didn't go behind the third level, but they did take some balls down the field. Like I said, there were a couple of daggers that he completed. I'd like to see that too. I'd like to see him try and blow the top off once or twice. That'd be nice. But I'm for that. I think that's probably, if nothing else, it'll put the fear of the good Lord in him that, hey, we will try and throw the ball behind you and maybe loosen them up for some other throws.
All right, let's get back to it. Steve Horn. Chip likes to shovel pass from the gun. He used them with great success with Omarion Hampton. Yeah, throwing to the running backs, I think, is a thing. And so that is a concept that I think will come more to the fore the deeper we get into the season.
Yeah. My response to that is stay tuned. Yeah, because I don't think they emptied the drawer against New Mexico. I got to plug something in here, Sam, just a second.
Yeah. Steve, you're up on it, man. You're paying attention. You're paying attention there, Steve. How about that? While Al is away, we can go, and it looks like there are a lot of people co-signing the old Matt Patricia points.
Yeah,
I gotta,
my battery was dying. I had to plug in the charger.
oh
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. I'm just saying.
you got some bandwagons there, Sam, guys?
Mix. Yeah. Patricia defensive version of Josh McDaniels. Yeah. He is the sap on the Belichick coaching tree. Yeah. Exactly, Sam. Let's see him prove it. Now that he's on his own. Yeah, Al. Yeah.
So Sam likes it when he gets validated.
Yeah. Facts. That's the Patriot way. Sorry, Pat fans. Everyone was writing the real genius. I'm just telling you, Al. People around here know about Matt Patricia.
So I was here during Matt's tenure. I watched. I know how that is. But Rod Marinelli was a coach of the Lions. Didn't win a game, but I know Rod well. Rod's a great football coach, but he didn't have a very good team. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. I don't.
Wasn't Matt Millen his GM though? I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I think he was.
Circumstance. All right, let's get back to the questions. All right. When Shoelace ran, you couldn't get a finger on him. Yeah, I mean, that was a thing of beauty when you had Denard football. Yeah. Here's the thing though, at the very end, and you told this story before, when he couldn't throw and you had to run him.
Yeah.
Now, how about that?
Oh yeah, that was that was terrible because I was taking a lot of hits because we wouldn't throw a pass with him, but he couldn't throw a pass. But we couldn't tell him he couldn't throw a pass because we didn't want the other team to know he couldn't throw a pass because we were going to sneak him in a quarterback every so often. So everybody was calling me an idiot because we wouldn't throw a pass. But we tested him every week. It's like, could you just throw it 10 yards? And because that ulnar nerve was ruptured and his hand was numb, he'd throw it, it'd come out end over end, and he just couldn't throw it. So, but that at least we got something out of him. We ended up moving him mostly to halfback, and he did a nice job there too. So,
all right, so we'll get a couple of more in before we let Borges go. I tend to go to 115. It's kind of the sweet spot as the Q&A goes deep, but people are really hung up on Bryce running the football. So the question, really, they want you to quantify it, Al.
Well, when they're hung up, they want him to run more, or they want him to run less, or not? What's the run?
How often? And Daniel Thornton puts it in a nutshell. Do you go in with an idea of how much you want to run him against Oklahoma? Is it a feel thing? Is there a preconceived notion about running Bryce in this game?
Yeah, I think you do have a preconceived notion. And when I talk to young coaches today and forever, is the first question you always ask yourself when you put the design of your offense in is the one question you always ask in today's football is how much you don't want the quarterback to run. Do you want him to carry the ball 10 times? Do you want him to go 15 times? Do you want to carry him 20 times? What do you want to do? And in a game plan, you decide that. With Denard, it wasn't a hard decision. With other guys, it's I don't know, and even with Denard, he ended up getting hurt some too. So, there's always that factor where, oh God, because let me tell you something, Sam. There aren't very many runs to the quarterback, plus runs that don't look good on paper because you can block everybody. You know what I mean? So everybody's always advocating run the quarterback more, or there's not many runs, zone reads that don't look good because you don't even have to block one guy, But what people don't understand sometimes is every time he pulls that ball and runs it, that's another hit. That's another hit, okay? And again, either get hurt or beat up in some way, shape, or form. So you got to be careful when you're talking about the franchise of your team. Toting the ball more than 8 to 10 times a game, you are now putting him at risk to be hurt or be beat up such that he's inefficient. So you got to be careful, and even in this game, I would lean towards not trying to run him more than 5 to 8 times, and of those 5 to 8, I would design run maybe a couple. It's because if he gets injured now, all these geniuses that think the quarterback should run, if he gets injured, Those geniuses are now playing with their backup quarterback, okay? And the drop-off may be much greater than you anticipated.
All right. Al, here's one from Grant Info. Al, did you script the first 15 to 20 offensive plays? And question 2, if you score two TDs on 5 plays, would you not utilize the other 10 scripted plays until the second half?
No, we scripted the first 15 to 17 plays. And I say 17 because generally there was 2 or 3 plays that were hash prejudice. We would only run if it was on a certain hash, okay? So I would have an alternative play if the play wasn't on the hash. So we scripted 15. When I started off back in the old days, back in the 80s, I scripted as many as 20 to 24 plays, but I found I wasn't getting to them. But when I scripted 15 to 17, we ran them all. We ended up, and it wasn't always exactly in the sequence that I scripted them. Sometimes I would jump, but by the middle of the second quarter, generally all 15 were used if we were having any success on offense at all. And then for the second half, what I would do is I had what I call second half considerations, which were plays that didn't make the cut of the opening plays, okay? But I wanted to be run before the end of the game. So I would have maybe 7 or 8 second half considerations that we would use after halftime when we went in, decided how we wanted to start second half. I may add those into the mix for the second half. So, but really kind of today, almost everything's kind of scripted. You call it by feel. You don't always call it exactly in a sequence that you think, but usually, you got your third down calls. They're all scripted now, but they may not be. You may not run the first play. You may not run the first play on the third down script the third time you're in third down. It may, that's just how it works. But everything in a sense is kind of scripted.
Yeah, Grant follows up. He said, do you expect Chip Lindsay to employ 12 personnel packages since Klein, Max Bredesen, and Hogan Hansen are all great blockers?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's Michigan football. And that's what's caused the most problems for these teams they play. And if you talk to coaches, which I have that have played against Michigan, that's what they hate the worst, is all those moldable tight ends, moldable movement stuff where you've got to set your front, set your coverage, force responsibilities are changing with the shifts and the motions, and it's a headache. And if you got efficient people doing it, it's really a headache. And that's where Michigan's been very, very effective over the years.
All right. So Borges. I mean, this could go on all day. People are asking a bunch of questions. We being great to see Borges back. Also, please tell us how Matt Patricia is a bum. Please, I could go on and on. Don't get me started. Let me count the ways. But I mean, I gotta get to Vance. I put a little more pad. I gave a look because it's impossible for us to run in Vance now. So he won't have to worry. It's like, Sam, come on, man. Y'all running into my time. So we won't do that this time. A little more cushion.
Where's Vance?
Vance he's at 2. So there's a 45-minute buffer.
Oh, I got you.
5-minute buffer.
Because I don't want to piss him off. He's always there. How long are you going to go?
We won't run into him this time. So, hey, Brandon McNally, this is a good. He said, how does the script actually work? Is it a list, 1 to 15 or 17, or is it more nebulous, like a few first down plays, second down plays from a hash, third down plays, etc.? How does it actually work?
You're what we call openers. Okay, openers are your scripted plays. Openers, they are all first and second down calls. Okay, they are not third down calls. We go to a different. Your call sheet's got all these situational football on it, with it short yardage, red zone, third down, whatever. Those are not in the openers, okay? The openers are simply first and second down, generally field area plays. So they're not designed for the red zone, although I have called openers in the red zone. I have done that. And they follow a sequence that you would ideally like to use, but very seldom will go all 15 in a row, almost never. You'll go to 1, 2, I'm going to go down to 5 for the next call, and then jump back up to 3, go to 7. You know what I mean? So it's still a lot of it is by feel, but it's still the opening plays. It's the plays that you plan to run in the first 15, but they're just not always exactly in a 15-play sequence.
All right, and so we'll end on this, the last question, and it picks up on a sort of a concept question I asked you very early about preparing Bryce in a way that Arch Manning obviously wasn't earlier. You talked about just tell them to progress the reads, but just you didn't answer how do you tell them to prepare for recognizing coverages. You just this is actually a really good question. So how do you teach them to do that? How do you prepare a young QB to recognize defenses that are hiding their true coverage? So how do you actually do that, Al?
Well, film study's huge now. Huge. I mean, you go take them. All right, let's look at first down. All right. Let's look at first down. What do they do on first down? Blah, 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 blah. You see, 4 or 5 different deals. You said, okay, these are your options. If the safety's in this position, you're not going to get this coverage, but you could get these 3. Okay. If the safety's in this position, you're not going to get this coverage, but you could get these 3. Okay. Then you go out there and do your damnedest to show the scout team how to do that, which sometimes is challenging because sometimes they're not, sometimes all the time, they're not as good at doing it as Ohio State is. So, but through film study, through your scout work, through some walkthroughs, you show them all that stuff. But just know that the most important decisions are made after the ball snapped. Movement keys are 10 times more important than pre-snap reads, okay? They determine your decision, okay? So for all the time we do spend on pre-snap reads and all that type of stuff, we're going to spend more on who's the interceptor, who's the guy that's the most threatening to the curl, okay? Because if that throwing lane's taken away, who's the alternative? And how quick's that ball got to come out based on the timing of the throw? So it's a lot of different factors, but film studies at the top of the list if you're talking about coverage ID.
Yeah, that's a different question than we touched on earlier. The question earlier was, okay, if you don't know what the coverage is, what do you do? That was the question earlier. This is how do you teach them to recognize coverage? So,
right. Have you seen that commercial, Sam, with Tom Brady, where the guy's doing all the X's and O's on the board there? Have you seen that one? He ends it with if the safety rotates down, rip the seam. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's he telling him? It's nobody's getting that unless you're a football purist, right? All he's saying though is that if the safety rotates down, that's a post snap read, or it could be if he does it early, which a lot of guys don't. But if the safety rotates down, rip the seam. Like if it's a 4 vert, put the ball in the seam with the safety rotating down because there's a middle safety. Okay, that's a post snap read. That if the team is dumb enough to show it to you early, could be a pre snap read, but more often than not, it's not. So,
but I think that part Bryce has been training on forever. Not to say that he knows everything, but the process that you go through in order to learn coverages, he's been working on that forever. I think the really important thing is what you touched on earlier in the show. Okay, you don't know what it is. What do you do? That's going to be the big key in this game because that's going to happen. 100% that's going to happen. No He's going to run into, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Now what do you do?
Yeah. Depend on your progression and your footwork. When in doubt, depend on your progression and your footwork. And don't force the quarterback to extrapolate a lot of information that's just going to confuse him at this point in his career. Now, as he moves on, that stuff clears up. It turns into a 7-on-7 drill. You know what I mean? Rather than 11-on-11. The quarterback gets, all the pass rush goes away, and all you're doing is looking at. But at this point, a guy like Arch Manning, and those guys, they're still learning the game. There's still more. You get, and it doesn't matter how good they are in the meetings at drawing the X's and O's and dazzling with you all this information. No. That can be an imposter. It's what you can do when the ball snapped.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, folks, that is going to do it for this edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown. Be sure to tune in about 45 minutes, or focus on the offense anyway. Be sure to tune in about 45 minutes for the Michigan Football Breakdown focused on the defense with Vance. But that'll do it for us here with Gorgeous Borges. He'll be back next week to be talking about the Oklahoma game with the Wolverines win. You ready to make a call out? But you haven't watched Oklahoma yet, so I won't put you on.
No, I haven't. I like making an educated call, Sam.
I hear you. So I won't even put you on the spot yet. So
Sam, where are you watching the game?
So I'm gonna be watching it with the wife who's on the mend. I got 3 guys heading to. I got Alejandro, Zach, and Newkirk heading to
Oklahoma.
North. and I'll be with the wife, who is mending quite well.
Yeah, you got to treat her good, Sam. She's
I'm
because
doing my,
you ain't gonna get one that good again. Okay, so just make sure that
I'm doing my husbandly duty.
well, that's good.
I am.
Just making sure. I'm just encouraging you, is all.
Yeah, she's on the mend, man. So, but at any rate, we got to get out of here, and I'll see you guys in a bit here on the Michigan Football Breakdown. Thanks for watching the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with Al Borges. We'll see you next time.
Go Blue.